Sean in Oklahoma. Sean, hello. You are live with Christy, V, and Grace. How can we help you tonight?
All right. I'm trying to keep my terminology. Let me know if y'all have a problem with how I explain this. So I guess it's like with orgasms, right? When say you bottom, right? For me, like if I bottom, it may be hard to have an orgasm, but I can actually do it. But when I top, it's kind of harder. So I guess I'm trying to figure out if there's any options or ways for information for a solution to that. One of y'all said something about like last week where you got to play a particular role on how you look. I think something like that. And I feel like a lot of people base like how you look on whether you should top or bottom. And people said, oh, well, I look like a bottom. So I don't know, maybe y'all can help out with that.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a fascinating conversation. I love talking about role play and relationships within sexual encounters. And I think you're right. And I think what we were talking about the other week was it can be really liberating to get outside of the stereotype that you are put into. So in a heterosexual relationship, it's kind of understood because of social constructs that the dude's gonna top and the woman's gonna bottom. And then in different communities, depending how you present, depending on the terms you use to discuss yourself and your wants and desires, it kind of automatically sorts you again into those categories. And it can be very useful to subvert those, but it can also be really tricky. And I think if I'm understanding you correctly, one option might just be getting more comfortable in that role. Because if one feels more natural to you, if you gravitate towards one or you have had more experiences as, say, a bottom, it's going to be easier to get out of your head because you know what to do, you know how to relate to your partner, you're not thinking as much, you're kind of in the moment a little bit more. And that really, really helps when you're trying to climax. And if you're not used to being a top or you enjoy it a lot, but maybe you're still learning how, the techniques work and what your partner likes, it's gonna take a little bit more to actually come because you are in your head and you are thinking not just about yourself, but also what is my partner doing right now? And am I doing this right? And does this feel good? So I think a lot of this, at least as far as my understanding of this question would be, is getting used to it and doing it more and being communicative with your partners and making sure that you are keeping that space open for constructive criticism, for affirmation. You did this really well, or hey, next time try this, because the more you get that positive affirmation, the more you know, oh, I'm doing this right, the easier it's going to be to get out of your own head and start getting into your own body.
All right. Yeah. Wow. That does make sense.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. How does that kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that part, the whole getting it out of your head.
Sure. That's going to be the biggest part. And I think giving yourself a little bit of patience, not just in the number of encounters, but in the length of encounters. If you feel like you need to come within the first, few moments of an interaction, you can let go of that stress. If that's a tension that you're feeling from your partner, that might be something to really consider. Because it may take a little bit longer, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and like V was saying, I think it's so important to think about how you feel in the moment. We all have one of my favorite books on sexuality talks about how we all have accelerators and how we all have brakes, basically, when it comes to having sex and being, sexually active. There's things that will turn us on and that will, make us feel more relaxed or more comfortable or happier during that moment. And there's things, whether they're big or small, that are going to make us put the brakes on, that are going to get us stuck in our heads. And that could be something, of you feeling insecure, uncomfortable, or even just, wondering if you're going to be heard. Is someone home? Is there a weird lighting in the room? All of these things are totally valid. And, it's all about, in my mind, and what I've learned is that you have to take advantage of those accelerators, what makes you feel the best in that moment, and try to reduce the number of breaks that you end up putting on yourself. And that comes with communication with your partner as well.
Yeah, and if you want to follow up on that idea, it comes from Come As You Are by Emily
Yeah.
Nagoski. And we'll make sure to have a link to that in the footnotes to this episode.
Love that book.
All right, that'll work. I appreciate it. Do y'all have time for one more question?
Yeah, why don't you go for one more?
Okay, it's really a sensitive deal. So this is it Grace, this guest?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, sorry. So say I'm trying to be like more open-minded and more accepting, and I may talk to someone who's got HIV, right? So is that okay to talk about that? All right. So I'm just trying to figure out like what is like safe and a productive way to go about that if I decided to do that. I just like if y'all got any advice, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's tons of resources out there. One, are you thinking of, having that conversation with a partner? Is that what you're asking about?
I'm thinking of talking to someone that is interested in me and I'm interested in them, and I'm just like looking into it, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys also want to chime in, but I know that there's a lot of resources out there and websites. One website that I really like is Healthy Sexuals. They have a lot of good like conversation starters and ways to bring up topics around having healthy sex. There's also a lot of, counselors out there that have really low cost or that you can talk to like on social media that will have like give you advice on having those conversations, or there's role play you can do. There's lots of things, but I would definitely recommend Healthy Sexuals. If you go to, any LGBT center or you go to your local nonprofits on, excuse me, on Glimmer, we have an LGBT center locator in our resource page, and you can just type in the city that you're in, and there's, all of these great resources there as well.
Also, this is a great opportunity to shout out Planned Parenthood, right? This is something that they would also be able to help with, and it's a free resource. Yeah. You can walk in without an appointment and just ask somebody these questions and get a lot of really good information, free condoms, all this stuff. So if you are curious about how to have safe sex with somebody with HIV and the steps to take and the kind of protection and, maybe getting on PrEP, all of these things your local Planned Parenthood will be able to help with.
Definitely. And, there's also, I was mentioning on Healthy Sexuals, they have ways that you can get these protective measures like healthy sex kits and stuff delivered to your house for really cheap or free without insurance. So you can also get that sent if you don't feel comfortable going in person.
Yeah, so that's a stack of resources for you. I think it really comes down to both be educating yourself and communicating with your partner. Find out what their circumstances are, what their interests or wants are, and then work from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a stigma around it, and I guess I'm trying to let go of all that and, open my options. So I really appreciate y'all.
I love that. That's awesome and an important conversation to have, both publicly and in private. So good on you and best of luck. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right, y'all have a good night. Thanks.
Yeah, take care.